Coming up on AC 24/7, 2 years after the death of Breonna Taylor, an alarming DOJ report on the Louisville Police Department. Plus, the mother of one of the Mexico kidnapping survivors speaks out, how one senator is demanding justice, and growing concerns about turbulent skies, what travelers should know, and the surprising link to climate change. Hey there, welcome to AC 24/7. I'm your host, Lamar Baldwin. The Department of Justice now says a Louisville officer engaged in discrimination and excessive use of force. The investigation began after the murder of Breonna Taylor and found the department specifically targeted the Black community. The Advocate Channel's Jessica Schneider reports.
A scathing review of the Louisville Metro Police Department, documenting persistent problems, abuse, and even blatant racism.
Some have videotaped themselves throwing drinks at pedestrians from their cars, insulted people with disabilities, and called Black people monkeys, animal, and boy.
The 2-year investigation from DOJ found Louisville police officers practiced an aggressive style of policing that it deploys selectively, targeting Black people and vulnerable people throughout the city.
This conduct is unacceptable. It is heartbreaking. It erodes the community trust necessary for effective policing.
Specifically, DOJ lists a number of findings, including the use of excessive force, unjustified and dangerous neck restraints, discrimination, and conducting searches based on invalid warrants. The review began in 2021, 1 year after Breonna Taylor was killed during a botched police raid at her apartment in Louisville. Officers are accused of falsifying information to get a search warrant, failing to properly announce themselves, and one officer allegedly fired blindly into Taylor's apartment.
I don't even know what to think, to know that this thing should have never happened, and that it took 3 years for anybody else to say that it shouldn't have.
4 of the officers are now facing federal civil rights charges, but the DOJ is clear in its report. The unlawful conduct by Louisville police didn't start with Breonna Taylor in 2020.
Shortly after we opened the investigation, an LMPD leader told the department Breonna Taylor was a symptom of problems that we have had for years.
DOJ has now entered into an agreement with the city of Louisville to reform its police department. Already, training has been revamped, no-knock warrants are now prohibited, and more mental health professionals will accompany police on 911 calls.
We will reform how we recruit, train, equip, support, supervise, and deploy the more than 1,000 public servants whose job it is to serve as guardians of the public safety every day and every night.
The mother of one of the survivors from that deadly Mexico kidnapping is speaking out. 2 of the 4 Americans were rescued alive after 4 days in captivity. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham is vowing to get justice, saying that, quote, it's time to change the game on how to deal with Mexican drug cartels. The Advocate Channel's Diane Gallagher reports.
It feels good to know that she's coming home and she's safe.
The mother of kidnapped survivor Latavia Tay Washington McGee relieved she will see her daughter soon.
I was praying for all of them.
But not all of them will make it home alive. Just 2 of the 4 Americans kidnapped in Matamoros, Mexico, survived the terrifying ordeal. McGee, the only one not physically hurt by the captors, and her friend Eric Williams, who was shot 3 times in the legs, according to his wife.
Tears of joy, I guess, that he's alive. I didn't even want to imagine what he was going through, or, what any of them were going through.
But McGee's cousin, Shaid Woodard, and longtime friend Zendel Brown did not survive.
She watched them die, and that's what hurt her, she said.
The group rented a minivan to travel from South Carolina so McGee could undergo a medical procedure. Just days later, this terrifying video appears to show one of the Americans being shoved into the bed of a pickup truck at gunpoint in broad daylight and taken from the scene. Burgess tells CNN about her first call with her daughter.
She was crying because she said, I said, you okay? She said, yeah. She watched Shaheed die, Shaheed's there. Him and her the only one survived out of the 4.
And what she feared when she got the dreaded call from the FBI, who she says confirmed her daughter was in danger.
They were going to kill her and I would never see her again.
The Mexican government saying the group was found in a wooden home and had been moved around to create confusion and avoid rescue. They also say one person in connection to the 2 deaths has been detained, but the investigation continues. For McGee's family, their relief clouded by sadness for those who won't make it back home.
I'm going to miss them because I love them all under death.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is recovering from a serious fall at a private dinner in Washington. A spokesperson says McConnell is being treated for a concussion and says he will stay in the hospital for a few days for observation and treatment. The 81-year-old is the longest serving Senate leader in U.S. history. There has been an alarming number of violently turbulent flights recently, resulting in serious injuries in the last week. One of those flights causing the death of a former White House official. Now some are blaming climate change. The Advocate Channel's Tom Foreman reports.
Violent turbulence has been a feature of flying for decades, with each year bringing fresh and frightening examples.
A lot of people hit the ceiling and a lot of screaming.
A series of recent incidents have alarmed some flyers.
It was honestly pretty scary. It was kind of like out of a movie.
And they have terrified others.
My life just flashed through my eyes. I thought it was the end.
Climate change has been scientifically linked to increasingly severe weather. So, amid all the headlines about planes being rattled, a troubling question has emerged. Is the climate making turbulence worse too? Yes, says the co-author of this 2019 study, Professor Paul Williams, who studies atmospheric science.
Which the climate change has made turbulent flights more likely in much the same way that it's made heat waves more likely as well. Climate change is strengthening clear air turbulence at all flight levels, in all seasons, everywhere around the world where there's a jet stream.
Simply put, he says climate change is creating atmospheric disturbances which generate a ripple-like effect in the air even when no bad weather is apparent. But proving a link for any given flight is tricky. When a passenger is injured, like the 7 who went to the hospital after a Lufthansa flight a few days ago, or if someone dies, as happened with a woman on a private jet over New England, the National Transportation Safety Board notes the incident. But it does not track turbulence on all flights.
And frankly, that's not enough. We need to have a more robust system because the attempts at forward-looking radar to pick up clear air turbulence, they simply have not panned out yet.
More information is key, researchers say, because the threat is not going away.
So I'd love to see more efforts put into collecting reliable, robust data as we move into this more turbulent future.
Queer icon RuPaul is speaking out against a new law that's aimed at restricting drag performances. The Emmy winner called the new anti-drag bills the work of bullies and a classic distraction technique. Anti-drag bills are working their way through legislature in at least 11 states. The bills are being introduced in Republican-led states where politicians claim drag performances expose children to sexual themes and imagery that are inappropriate. But advocates say the proposed measures are discriminatory against the LGBTQ+ community and could violate First Amendment laws. March marks Endometriosis Awareness Month. In Australia, conservative Bindi Irwin is using her platform to speak out about the condition. In a social media post, Irving revealed she was suffering from endometriosis for about 10 years. That's when tissues that line the uterus grows outside of the uterus. It can cause pelvic pain, fertility issues, and heavy bleeding during periods. Endometriosis is most common among women in their 30s and 40s and affects around 190 million women globally. Thank you for joining us for AC 24/7. For more content that advocates to you, go to advocatechannel.com and make sure you follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. For the Advocate Channel, I'm Lamont Baldwin.